with their own language, that kind of thing. There's the idea of HR, of AI bleeding into areas of business that it didn't exist in before, and having an unusual impact. For example, like HR. That having an intelligence that can analyze work, productivity, performance, recruitment. I'm curious about, what do you think about AI and HR and sort of the workplace of the future? I mean, and how that impacts, or how you might explain to a company how that impacts the workforce. Because I have to say that as I've been reading and researching for this, it's one of the things that scared me the most is the idea that my performance would be analyzed by something other than a human.
Humans do prefer to be judged by other humans, so we've discovered this,
right.
Even if they think the result was not optimal. It's very interesting, it's just a social thing. They did a lot of studies of judges making decisions and the same information being fed into cognitive tools and discovering that actually they preferred the judge's results even if it was more adverse or higher penalty or something like that.
But there's biases that humans bring to stuff as well. I mean, when I think about HR, I think about the performance reviews and how managers hate to do them.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is, over the decades, we've built up counteractions to those biases. So, for example, if you look at recruitment, which I used to study, it's well known that the interview is not a very good microcosm of the person's behaviour, because you can train yourself for the 25 minutes, and yet people make their judgments within 3-5 seconds about whether this person's a good person for the job or not. So they very often even ignore the information from the interview. But a better guide is the objective information on the CV, provided it's accurate.
And that is analyzed.
And that can be automated.
I've seen it. I mean, I've seen it actually, people automate that first pass, run it through a system.
And what we found, the use of robots in HR have taken 50-60% of the time that these very smart HR people were doing was entering information systems.
That's very true.
So if you free that time up, they can spend more quality time getting to understand a person. And the other thing I'd say is that the psychometric testing is really interesting. I sort of dismissed it, but we recently, the board of Blue Prism went through this to sort of say, are we all nut jobs, or are we on our right jobs? And it was amazingly interesting to find how accurate something that was purely programmatic and purely with no human involvement. There's an interpretation of it, but it probably got me 80% right, which I thought was very interesting.
I think just building on that, I get the point around the using automation in HR, enabling the HR professional to be able to focus more on maybe the value from the performance review process. And I think one of the great applications, or one of the things you could use AI for in that process, is to understand where potentially there is bias creeping into the performance review process. Right, and looking for trends and that sort of thing, which can be surfaced, which then you can act on in a positive way rather than a negative way.
That's a really good point. And it's because I feel like AI could have a tremendous benefit in diversity in the workplace, because when people are in HR and they're having these conversations and talking to people, they don't seem to have or apply that data for the broad diversity numbers in their own organization until they're suddenly confronted with the fact that they have no diversity. So I think it's an important tool there.